couple of deeper golden nuggets, but it is a lot to try and tackle in a shorter period of time. But the very first thing that I just wanted to preface all of this with is, if you are not doing virtual parties yourself, it is going to be very hard to train other people on how to do them well if you don't have the experience yourself. And that might be an unpopular thing to say if it's like, okay, well, you want to start digging into it deeper yourself in order to truly be able to authentically train your team on these topics. So I do not like to do those. I avoid them unless someone begs me to do one. But as a leader, I do them, and I do them regularly because I know if someone joins my team and they want to do cooking shows, I need to be well versed in them in a way that I can train my team on cooking shows. So as a leader, I do that for myself and for my team, even when I don't like doing it, because it's important as their leader. So that would just be the first thing, is I would just encourage you that if you are not really delving very deep in the virtual world, just make a commitment to yourself to do it, and do it regularly, at least once a month, maybe 2 parties a month, just so that you can train your team in a way that you actually feel confident. Because if you're not confident in training them, they're going to understand that you're not doing it and you're not confident in it. So that's just the first thing that I wanted to add. And digging into the first topic, which is recruiting at virtual parties, I really think that it comes down to a few key things. And you got to have the virtual experience to really understand how it works. But the first thing is your story, and having a really good story in your parties. And this is just like if you're having a cooking show and you're sharing your story, but not just you as an executive director or above, but your team, and teaching your team how to have an effective story in their virtual parties. And so what I mean by this are things like, the consultant should be sharing quite a bit about themselves, like not just why you started or what you're looking forward to or why you stay, but what makes you tick as a person. Like, what are your hobbies? What are your interests? What are your passions? And so I always start out my parties with a welcome, and I actually do a couple bullet points. I was going to try and find a party to pull this up, and I was like, oh, I'll be prepared and I'll have it. And then Claudia and I went live really fast, and I didn't have time to pull it up. So I'll try and pull it up here and I'll show you. But basically what it is I do a welcome about myself. I share hobbies, interests, passions, and then I have a picture of my family. And I started out that way because I want people to see that, and I want them to get to know who I am as an individual. And it's not just like some of it's surface level, but then I go deeper on who I am as an individual later on in the party. So I think that's really important, because the guests and the customers in the party are going to feel so much more connected if they know more than just the face of the person running the party. So I think that is something to take a look at for yourself in your virtual parties, and also for your team, is how are they sharing their, who they are in a way that's maybe a little more vulnerable, but in a way that the guests and customers are going to connect with them. So that's the first thing about the story piece. The second thing about the story is sharing why they started Pampered Chef and why you stay, or why you started and what you're looking forward to. That is not new news to us, right? We've heard that before. We should be doing that in our parties. But in virtual parties, you need to do it in a way that is impactful. And how you make it impactful is by being as authentic and vulnerable as you can. So I'll give an example. I was just training a new consultant today on how to run virtual parties, and I was talking to her about creating her story. And so the welcome post about herself with her hobbies and her passions and her picture, that's easy. But later in the party, I told her, well, you want to share your story in a way that is relatable. So instead of just saying, I started Pampered Chef because I'm looking for something extra to do on the side, I'm looking for extra income for the holidays and to support our family budget, that's surface level. I told her, instead, share with them what you shared with me. And what that looks like is something like this. So I started Pampered Chef because I just recently stopped doing in-home daycare, And it was not a passion of mine anymore. My kids are grown. And honestly, I have anxiety, and it's really hard for me to think about going outside of the home to get a normal job. And so Pampered Chef appealed to me because I can stay home, I don't have to battle my anxiety, and I can work from home and do virtual parties. And I'm really looking forward to this helping add money to our family budget so that we can have extra money to spend on our kids at Christmas time. So see how that was very different and a little more vulnerable than just something very surface level. So I think when we're teaching them to share their story, they need to be sharing those parts that are a little bit more uncomfortable to share, because that is when people are going to connect with us from the heart, right? Because people are going to look at that and be like, wow, I want to support her. Like, she's trying to do something for herself, and she just shared that she has this horrible anxiety that makes it hard to work outside of the home. Like, I would love to buy from her. I would love to support her and book a party through her. Or they're going to think, wow, I have anxiety and I can't work outside the home. Maybe I could do what she's doing. So there's all these reasons why you want to dig a little bit deeper than just kind of surface level stuff on the story. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece is, and this can be an unpopular thing to say as well, but it works, so I'm going to share it, is sharing the money side, because the story is the heart and the money is the head, right? Like, money talks. And so I love sharing that we make actual money and not just, we don't just get paid in spatulas. Like, that's what everyone says, right? We get actual paychecks. We don't just get paid in spatulas. So how can we show that in our virtual parties? Well, you've probably seen this a while back, that paycheck game that was going around in the cooking shows where you have envelopes and you have like dollar bills or you have the paycheck in them, right? So I thought, okay, that's effective. I've signed a lot of people at cooking shows using that. So why don't I just translate that into the virtual environment? So I do. And it's just like a post that says, guess how much you think this paycheck is. And then I give a little bit of input on who the person is and how many parties they do. So if it was me, here, I'll share my screen and I'll share an example of this. So this is one of my virtual parties, and it says, next up is guess the envelope. Guess how much you think this person makes each month with their Pampered Chef business. The person closest to the correct answer wins a raffle ticket. And then you have to give very clear direction on how many parties or how many hours that person works. So this one's my paycheck. I stay home with the kids now. I used to work full time, but now I'm making enough money with Pampered Chef. I can quit my full-time job, work from home on my own schedule. I do all virtual parties, and I do roughly 5 to 7 virtual parties per week. And so then you have people guessing, and then I reveal my actual paycheck with like the little picture of the stub of the paycheck. So, and I do another one in the party that is someone who is just doing Pampered Chef on the side, like a side hustle, very part-time, because I want them to see that they can do this very part-time on the side. They don't have to want to quit their job and do this as a career. So I show both examples. So I play that twice so that they see that wide variety. Now that's the money speaking, right? That's creating desire. So you have to create desire, and that's how I teach my team to do it, through the story in the heart and then through the money in the head. And then you give them an opportunity to ask questions. And so this is just a simple Q&A post. So if you're doing cooking shows, you give your guests an opportunity to ask questions for tickets, right? It's just the exact same thing. So you post something that says, here's your chance to ask me any question about the business. You get 10 bonus raffle tickets for any question you ask. No question is stupid. And here are some sample questions you can steal if you want, right? And then they ask questions because you created the desire. So if you're not getting people asking questions on a Q&A post, it's because you didn't create enough desire earlier in the party, or because you don't have enough people in the party. But that's a host coaching topic for another day. So then you teach your team how to get leads from that. So you create the desire, you give them the opportunity to ask questions, and now you have your leads. And so your leads are people who ask questions, and your leads are also the party rock stars. Many people say, look for red flags, look for people that are kind of red flags, and I hate that term, so I use party rock stars. So I will say, look for people who are commenting on everything. Look for people who are sharing recipes. Look for people who are really excited about the products, just like at a cooking show, right? You see those people that are like selling the product for you. You're doing the exact same thing in a virtual party. You're looking for those people, and those are your rock stars. So you message the Q&A folks, you message your rock stars, and that is opening the door to the conversation. So I teach my team, like, think of the business opportunity as like behind closed doors, right? Like the doors are closed, and when you ask, it like opens the door a little bit, and it welcomes them in, and they can continue opening the door further if they want more conversation on it. But you never know unless you ask. Like that ask is like opening the door a little bit. And so how I do this in the virtual party is all those people ask questions, all the rock stars, I message them. I teach my team to message them. I give them the words to say to message them. And then I start that conversation with people. So that is really how you create desire, you find your leads, and you start conversation with your leads. And I teach my team, especially new folks, you're going to start these conversations and you're going to have no clue what to do or what to say. And so lean on me and send me screenshots of what they say in response, and I will help you with the words back that you can use. And so that is where I'm just reassuring new consultants that they don't have to know how to do this. And I would prefer if they send me screenshots, because then I can teach them the art of the conversation. I can teach them the skill of the conversation piece. And so if they're trying to do it on their own, they're not going to learn. But this way, they learn through me, they practice a few times, and then they're off on their own and they can do it themselves. So, and granted, not everyone becomes skilled at this overnight. Like, we have our natural recruiters and our natural sellers, right? So even I have some directors that struggle with recruiting, and I'm like, send me screenshots all day until you become skilled in this area. So so that's kind of the first item, which is how to recruit your virtual parties. And then the second piece is how to onboard new consultants who are virtual. Again, this is going to be very hard for you to do if you are not versed in virtual parties. So dive in, do a virtual party or two a month. You've got to get some experience with it. So how you onboard new consultants who are virtual. So thank you so much to Stacy and Love, because they created a system a while back before it was on PCU, right, for the new consultant strong start, where you take them through the phone calls. So this is the system that I use, and basically the binder system that they created, and Becky, she was part of that, I think, too. This was when I was like a brand new director. I didn't know what I was doing, but I took the system, I ran with it, I still use it as it was, except I took call number 3, and I changed it completely for virtual parties. And I took call number 4, and I also changed it for virtual parties. So what I do, so call number 1, if you're not using the system or familiar with it, call number 1 is about, their why, getting to know them. I also share the new consultant perks, and then we talk about how to get bookings. Call number 2 is host coaching. So they book parties between call 1 and call 2. I incentivize them to go get their bookings, and then we talk about host coaching. And the host coaching is specific to virtual parties, if that's what they're booking. And then the third one is I dig into the virtual party, how to do the virtual party, the what, the whys, and we dig into that. So let me back up. On call number 2, host coaching, I'm teaching them my host coaching system for virtual parties. And when I encourage them to book their first parties in call number 1, I look at their calendar with them, and I will say, okay, let's look at your calendar for October. If I just sign a consultant today, I'm going to talk with them. I say, okay, let's look. You could easily run your first virtual party next week. We have enough time to get you off the ground for your first virtual next week. And so I get them booking parties right away, and we look at the calendar, and they know, okay, she's telling me I can book next week, and she's going to walk me through it. So we book them fast, and we get them going right away, and then we book the rest of the weeks, right? So they have that to start with. And then the second call is how do you host coach to a virtual party? And then the third call is how do you run the party? So I actually give them my template. I have a generic template that I made just for consultants. So I just send that generic one. But after each phone call, there's an email that follows up with it. And this was just like Stacy and Becky and Love came up with. There's an email that follows it. And I tweak the emails to fit the virtual parties. So I'm sending them my host coaching call outline for virtual parties. They have that to follow. The third call, after that, I send them my template in the email. I teach them how to make their own Google form. I also teach them how to send their host tips every day. So they're sending their tip a host every day of the party. So I give them those host tips to send. And I tell them there's a method behind the madness. Like, you might not see it, but every post has a purpose. And so what I want you to do for these first few parties, your first month even, copy and paste what I give you, because it is the magic formula. It works. And get your feet wet, use that, and then if you want to venture out, go ahead and venture out. But use this at the beginning because it works. And so I give them permission to straight copy paste. And then on the fourth call, I really dig into, okay, so let me back up. Sorry. Call number 3, I also go into like a little bit of the hows and whys. So like, why do I use this post? Or, what are we looking for from virtual parties? We're looking for bookings and sales and recruit leads, right? So I talk about that. I talk about how some of the posts will fit into that. I talk about how to create your own story. So I do all that kind of stuff in call number 3. Call number 4, I'm teaching them how to actually get the leads and what I do. So I teach them how to book parties off their virtual parties. I teach them how to recruit off their virtual parties. And I don't care if they're going for fast track or not. I'm teaching them how to recruit anyways. Like, that's just part of the business. So, and if they can take it or leave it, but it's my job to give them everything, and then they can run with it or not, right? So I teach them how to get leads for bookings and recruit leads. I teach them what to message the Q&A folks and what to message the rock stars. I give them the words. My follow-up email, it has the words. They just simply copy and paste. And then I give them a tracker, like a lead tracker. And that call number 4 is the last call until their 30-day mark. And at their 30-day mark, I follow up with them and I say, I want you to be filling out this tracker between now and the 30-day mark. And the tracker has, how many bookings are you getting? How many potential bookings, like people who express interest but didn't actually pick a date? How many recruit leads, and who are your recruit leads? And so they fill this out. And then when I do their 30-day call, they, it's like, okay, let's look at your tracker. Where are you lacking? Are you struggling in getting bookings? Are you struggling in getting recruit leads? Where are we struggling, so we can dig a little bit deeper? And so I do that with them and have them filling that out between then and the 30-day call. So that is kind of how I onboard new consultants who are virtual. I'm actually on a new experience team with Stacy, Claudia, and I'm working with Holly on this. So I'm going to be sharing with home office, like, the scripts. I have scripts for all of it because I have to teach my team how to do it right. So I have to give them the tools to be doing these same phone calls. So when they recruit their first person, I give them the scripts and they follow the scripts and I'm doing the call. So I have like my virtual party call script all right now. I have my emails like attached to the Evernote. Like, I have all of that kind of in there. So I can share that, but I'm also going to share it if they want it at home office when we meet later on next month. So that's kind of how I onboard new consultants who are virtual in like the fastest nutshell possible, because that I could talk about every call on a deeper level a little bit more. But I wanted to get to how to promote directors who are virtual. So I think the key thing in all of that is you have to create a recruiting culture among your team before you can even really start promoting directors, right? So Jean's like smiling, giving me all these thumbs up. I'm like, this isn't rocket science. Like, I think you guys probably hear the same stuff over and over again. And then I realized I do it so often that it's habit that I don't really see the things that maybe other people don't know. So I'm like, I'll just tell you everything because it's all just habit for me. But you have to create that culture for recruiting, and you have to teach them how to recruit in their virtual parties. So if you are not doing virtual parties and you are not recruiting in virtual parties, how can you expect to teach your team how to do that, right? And like, that might sound harsh. I hope it doesn't sound too harsh, but how do you teach someone else to do something if you're not skilled in that yourself, right? So that's the first step, become skilled in it yourself. And as a leader, I would encourage you, even if you don't like doing it, we have to do things we don't like to do. Like me doing cooking shows, I don't like to do them, but I do them so I can help my team. So creating a recruiting culture, there's a couple of things that I've done that I've shared over and over a few times. But the first is baby steps to recruiting, and this was not my idea. I just took it and ran with it and made it awesome. It was awesome, but I made it even more awesome. So baby steps to recruiting is where you reward the activities for people who are trying to recruit. So I made a really cute little image. I'm going to share exec.sim if they put it up on the PowerPoint. But basically, it's like, here are activities that you can do every month, and you earn tickets into a drawing. And the drawing is Happy Mail. I mail them something cute from the Target dollar bin. But basically, it's not just rewarding those who are recruiting, but rewarding them who are trying to recruit. Like, are they sending me screenshots? They're getting rewarded. Are they doing three-way phone calls, which I don't do very many of those, but sometimes I do. It's mostly three-way Facebook chats. You know, they get rewarded for all those little things that they're trying to do, and they're trying. They're exerting effort, so you have to reward that. The other thing I'm doing is the cash pot for recruiting, and this is for my personal team, because my own directors can do their own thing. I'm going to teach them what I'm doing, and they can decide if they want to keep doing that at work. So I encourage them to do it, but they get to decide. So the cash pot is $2 from our personal recruits goes into a cash pot every month. So if we have 10 personal recruits in a month, $20 goes into the pot. And then everyone who recruited gets a ticket into the cash pot, including myself. And I recruit the most usually, right? It's rare that someone out-recruits me. So I have a lot of tickets, and that it actually makes it really fun, because what happens is if my ticket is pulled, then the cash pot rolls into the next month, and it gets bigger and bigger. So one time we had a cash pot that was like $80 because I kept pulling my own ticket because I was recruiting the most people. And then people are like, I want this cash pot. It's $80. I got to recruit this month, so I get a ticket into it. Like, they get really into it and they get excited about it. So that's for my personal team, to always continually developing my personal team, which is super important. And I think sometimes, you guys, you see virtual leaders promote, and then maybe they can't sustain the promotion. And I don't think it's because they're virtual leaders. I think it's because we all struggle with the same things. We all struggle with having strong directors. We struggle with helping them all be green. We struggle sometimes with promoting directors. So it's not so much that you see people having success with virtual, and then maybe they can't sustain the success. It's because they took their eye off doing the things that got them there in the first place. So if you continue to keep your eye on that, you're going to continue to have success. So I'm like, I will not be one of those virtual people that falls off and you never hear from me again. Like, I'm definitely like continuing to promote leaders to continue to do that. And you can do it virtually. You can have success virtually, and you can continue to have success virtually. But you have to keep doing the things that you are doing that helped you get there, right? So when you're promoting directors who are virtual, what I like to do is I don't do a lot of phone call coaching with my potential directors. It's usually all over Facebook message. And phone calls are fine. If you do phone calls, love on your phone calls. But if you bring on some younger people and you cannot get them on the phone, you're going to have to find a way to coach them over Facebook message. And this happens, right? Even I have it. Like, even maybe people that are my age or younger than me, and I just can't get them on the phone for the life of me. And I'm like, well, I'm going to figure out a way to do it off the phone. So consider ways that you can continue to develop those people, even if they're not funneling into your normal systems. You still want to support them. And I think that the trend is going that way. I think the trend is going to continue, that unfortunately maybe more of the coaching is going to be done online as opposed to over the phone. So I do a lot of coaching over Facebook message, and other people don't. Other people have extreme success. So do what works for you, but that's what works for me. And the first thing I do is I always start out by getting their show schedule. This is the exact same as a cooking show, like as the cooking show consultant, right? Like, you do show-based coaching. And so it's we used to train on this, right? Like, after the cooking show, I don't know if you guys still do this because I don't do cooking shows, but after the cooking show, you have them call you, right? Like, oh, how did it go? Like, how were the sales? Who booked a party? Like, who were your recruit leads? What'd they say? The exact same thing happens with virtual parties, you guys. It's not that much different. And so what I do is I have a calendar, and everyone who's an aspiring leader is on my calendar. I have their show dates, their show, like the host names, it's all on this piece of paper. And then I can say, okay, so this week I have Delinda as my aspiring leader, and she has a party with Brenda. And her party closes on Friday. So on Thursday, I'm going to message Delinda, and I'm like, Delinda, how is Brenda's party going? What are the sales looking like? What's the, who is active in the party? Do you have any bookings so far? I do all that, just like you would show-based coaching with cooking shows. And then I say, okay, what does your host say about the kit coupon? Same stuff you would normally be asking if they had a cooking show and they called you. What did your host say about the kit coupon? And who are your recruit leads? What did they say when you message them? But I do all this before the party closes. So if the party closes Friday, I'm having this conversation on Thursday because I want to make sure we get ahead of it so that the host is not filling their cart before I had a chance to coach Delinda on how to get her to use the coupon, right? So I have to do that ahead of time before the host has even gone in and started to work on my cart. So this calendar, this spreadsheet calendar thing it keeps me on track. Like, okay, who today do I need to message because I have party closing? And so just like we touch our business every day, there's certain things we do every day. And this is one of those things where I just look at my aspiring leaders. Who has parties closing? Where are they at? What their hosts say? This is how I help them recruit. And they're learning how to recruit. So I have to be asking those questions to make sure that they stay on track. And they will close parties without me, which drives me bonkers. But they'll close parties without me, and I'll be like, "What? Did you close the party? Yes. What did the host say about the kid coupon? Well, I didn't ask. Like, it drives me nuts, right? But that's where we have to be ahead of the curve, and we have to be teaching them and training them on what we expect, and we expect them to be communicating with us. We expect them to send screenshots. So those are some of the things that I do. I also put my aspiring leaders into a group message. So I'll give you an example, like right now, and this is a little extreme, but right now, like my head's about to explode. I think we have like 15 people gunning for director in October. Like it is going to explode because all these people recruited this month, right? Like you have people recruiting this month, they're building, and I'm coaching them, get your 5 signed before the quick start is over and then go for sales in October. So what I did was I put all these 15 people, and this is just first and second generation, okay? Like if I got third and fourth generation, I'm gonna die. So I'm working closely with first and second because that's what we need to hit structure, right? Which that sounds kind of bad probably. Like you wanna help everyone, but when you're going for a goal, like you kind of focus in a little bit, right? So these are first and second gen. I put them all in a group message in Facebook together, and instead of individually coaching every single one, I group coach them. And so this started last week because they're all going for it in October, right? And I say, okay, here's your tip for today, and I give them a tip. And it's not like they have a tip every day, but I'm kind of keeping them on this journey, and I'm walking them through some things they could do. And so, for example, if they don't have a group Facebook message with their team members in it, they need to start one. And I don't encourage them to do a Facebook group for their team right away because I think groups can sometimes get lost and people don't see the notifications. So instead I have them start a group Facebook message, add their team into this group Facebook message, and I say, okay, so you want to start that, and here's some words I give them the words, just copy and paste this, you guys. And I say, here's some words you can copy and paste in this message, and just explains that I'm starting this message because we're our own little baby team, and this is a great way for us to connect as a team. And then I'm like, okay, here's your next tip. The next tip is to share with your team that you're going for a director in October. Like your team has to know the goal. And if they don't know the goal, then they're not, they're working individually. You got to bring everyone together to work towards this goal. So I give them the words to use. I say, you can copy and paste this if you want. But basically just says, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. We're going for a director this month, or we're going for a director in October. This is why it's so awesome that we're going to be a director team. And they list out the benefits of being a director team. And then everyone's excited and they're rallying together as a team. So that's just an example. I put them together in a group, and I'm group coaching them, and I'm sending them tips along the way that can help them. But then I'm having individual one-on-one conversations about their parties like I just told you, right? Like, what'd your host say? Who are your recruit leads? What they say? All those things. So there's one-on-one over Facebook message that's more nitty-gritty details, and then group coaching that is good for everyone on how to set themselves up to promote. Like we have to give them the strategies and the tools on how to promote. So that's what I'm doing in that group coaching setting. And then I'm encouraging them to share, and I provide recognition in that message thread as well. So if someone just recruited their 4th or 5th person, or they just recruited 2 in 1 week, I'm like, Sally, oh my gosh, Sally just recruited 2 people in 2 days. Sally, how did you do it? So it gives them recognition, and then they're sharing in that group message how they did it, so that other people can learn from that, peer sharing and peer-to-peer recognition, right? So it's hard for me to think, okay, what exactly are the little things that I do? Because like I said, they're just habit and I just do them. And so I have to think, okay, this is not normal that everyone does these things. So what is it that that has been helping and promote leaders. And I think that those are some of the things. I think the hardest part is teaching your directors, for me at least, teaching my directors all those little things, right? Like, well, what are the tips that I'm giving? And so I can add the direct, like if I have second generation in this group message of aspiring leaders, I can add their directors in so they can see what I'm doing, because some of our directors are new and they don't know how to promote directors. And so we have to be showing them what we're doing to promote directors, and then they can take that and do that with their people once they develop that skill, right? So I feel like I talked a lot, and I hope I gave some good tips. And I could probably keep talking, but I want to leave time for questions at the same time.
Kristin, that was amazing.
I'm glad it was helpful.
I have one quick question. On your new consultant onboarding, can you just give me a quick little timing of your calls? I feel like they're probably closer together than for cooking shows. I'm wondering what kind of time.
Yes. Yes. So call number 1 is within 24, 48 hours of signing, or even that same day if they want. I'll get on the same day with them. And then call number 2 is 48 hours later. I give them 2 days to go book parties. Right. And then call number 3, that's where we talk about the virtual party, right? So that call has to happen before they start their first virtual. So it kind of depends on how fast they book their first virtual party. So I'll give an example. Let's say I sign someone today, I do their call today, and then I do the host coaching call a couple days later. It would be squished to get in that third call if they were to run parties starting Sunday. So, but usually that third call is like 48 hours, another 2 days later, 2 or 3 days later. So I can basically, if someone signs on Monday, I have the whole week to train them, and they could be doing a virtual party the very next week. If they sign today, it's Thursday. It's hard to squish in 3 phone calls before Sunday. And I do my parties weekly. So I have people invite Sunday. The party runs Monday to Friday. So it's just easy to have a weekly system. And then the fourth call is in the middle of their first virtual party. So it's teaching them, okay, what are we going to do now? We're in the middle of our party. How do we get leads? What do we do towards the end of the party? What do we do in the middle of the party? And we have to teach them how to interact and comment in their party. And I just thought that was like, oh, don't you know you're supposed to reply to comments in parties? I'm like, wait, I have to teach them how to do this. So, I teach them what they should be doing. What is your role as the consultant in the middle of the virtual party? And so I have to teach them that. I can't just assume they know. So that's kind of what I talk about on that call number 4 as well. Okay. And then call number 5 is before their 30-day mark. I want to see if we can close the gap to qualify if they haven't qualified yet, before their 30 days. So it's kind of a little bit before that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, Jean, you're muted.
All right, thank you, Kristin. Who else has questions for Kristin? I know that there was a lot of information there, so we have this recorded, so I'll be sending that out. But Kristin, I know many people had asked, for scripts, etc., and it sounds like you are willing to share those.
Yeah, so I have everything saved in an Evernote, and that's what I give my team members when I'm teaching them how to recruit. So it makes me nervous to share it with everyone, because what if there's a mistake in there somewhere that I missed? But I'll share the Evernote, and then you guys can go through it.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Okay. You did awesome. I'm this has to do with technology. Are you running most of your business from your phone, or are you sitting in front of a desktop or laptop? Like, how's this working?
Yeah. So even though I'm a millennial, and the younger millennials probably just use their phone, like some directors on my team just use their phone, and I don't know how they do it. I use my laptop a lot of the times because I can stay more organized, and I can type faster on my laptop. I mean, I can type like 70 words a minute than I can't type 70 words a minute on my iPhone. So for me, I use my laptop. But I mean, I have directors that are using their phone 100%, and so it just depends.
Okay, this is specific. What kind of laptop do you use? Because I'm in the market for a new one. So
Yeah, I love Costco for laptops, you guys. I have an HP. It was like $450. It wasn't like top of the line. I don't game on this thing. Like I'm just working. So yeah, it was like $450 from Costco, and then I just bought another one for my office partner, and I bought that one on Amazon, but it's also an HP. And Intel. Hers is not an Intel processor. Hers is a different processor. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah. Marie, you can message me. I'll send you links to the ones I bought.
Awesome. I don't know if it would be helpful, Kristin, to send either Judy or myself the Evernote link or whatever, or if you have access to everybody's email or how you do that.
Or I can post in the executive director team meeting.
Yeah,
It's
there you
posted
go.
there?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good plan. Any other questions? I mean, I have to say, first of all, there were a couple of things I picked up that you said. The art of, it was communication or communication?
The conversation, the recruiting conversation.
Conversation. I just love that. You know, sometimes you don't really think about that as it relates to virtual, but it's the same thing, as we say. Whether it's a live show or virtual, you have to have that conversation and that connection and the relationships. I mean, it's all there just as the live. So that was awesome. And then everybody was blown away, by the way, when you said you have 15 potential directors.
My head's exploding. I'm like gonna die in a good way. It's like so much.
Oh my gosh. I know Barb Duke, who was like almost fell off her chair. And so did I. It was like, wow, that is amazing.
I want to add one thing to that really quick that I think is important that I didn't talk about. And I think the reason why we have so many going for director is because I get them on board at the very beginning. And so call number one, I mention the bonus. I mention all the perks they can get. I mention the fast track bonus. And then call number two, I ask them if they want to go for it. So call number two, and I'll share this probably at ExecSem if it's the question I get selected for, but basically it's like, you know, I went over these perks last call, but there were so many. I wanted to talk about the cash perk you can earn, and I explain what it is in like a minute, you know, a few sentences, and then I say, now I'm going to teach you these calls anyways, right? We're going to walk through this together. So if you want an extra $2,000, I can add tips. I can highlight a couple things in these calls that we're already going to do together that kind of gear you towards the extra bonus. Or if you just want really simple, you just want the key thing, you know, the simple things, I can just kind of keep you the simple route and not really go towards the bonus. So do you have a preference? Would you like me, you know, would you like to earn the extra $2,000 and I can add a few tips along the way? 80% say yes. 80%, because I make it sound so chill, right? I'm like, well, we're already going to be doing the calls anyways. Like, do you want me to just add in a few things that can help you get an extra $2,000? And they're like, yes. The people that say no are the ones that are working 80 hours a week, and they're like, well, I just want really basic. You know, I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed already. So then that puts, I hate the word funnel, because like sales funnels and things, I hate those words, but then it funnels them into that aspiring leader group. Like now they're funneled into this group and we have systems in place. And so now we can work them through that system of promoting them. And then I have people come out of the woodwork and they're like, you know, I just had a great, you know, they have a great first month. And then you're like, oh, you had a great first month. Like, are you sure you don't want to go for this bonus? Like, so the 20% that said no, I'm still asking them again, assuming they had a good first month and they didn't like whatever, but usually most everyone does. So then I ask them again and they're like, well, you're right, you know, and then I add more to the funnel. So that's a kind of a key piece, I think.
I love that you shared that. That is fabulous. You know, one of the things I think that from a culture perspective that I noticed over the years is that a lot of leaders don't talk about the 3 ways to earn right at the time of the new consultant onboarding. And so I liken that all the time to if you went for a job, right, full employment, that individuals don't share all the components, whether you've got salary or bonus or, you know, insurance. And if you only know that there's one thing, you might lose that person to the competition who is talking about all the ways to earn. And so, right? And I think that that's so important. One of the questions I have for you, Kristin, is kind of your overall demographic of your, especially the people that you have been bringing on recently, as well as those 15 potential directors. When you think of those individuals, first of all, I'm assuming they're across the country because you're virtual, as well as kind of, do they run the gamut of age, or are you seeing that you are attracting like individuals? Can you talk a little bit?
It's all over. So I'll give you an example. So I'm looking at my list right now. I have my list of names, right? So I'm like, okay, let me pick my brain on this. So I have a lot of people, like I have a gal who's in her 60s going for a director right now, a gal who's in her late 40s, she's an attorney. I have a lady who is a grandma and has her grandkids living with her at home, and she is almost retirement age. I have another gal who's my age, another mom who's my age, like another young mom with young kids. So it is a wide variety of people. And I think why is because when you recruit, if you're showing different examples of people that have success in the business, you're going to attract all the different demographics. If you're just showing you as an example, who's going to recruit you? If you show other people as examples, you're going to be recruiting the wide demographic. So I think that that's important. So like the paycheck game, I show me, but then I show someone else, and I make sure it's a completely different demographic than me so that I'm attracting a wide variety of audiences. Really quick, Marie asked, I keep saying phone call. Is it phone call or message? The first 4 calls I do, or the first trainings I do, are phone calls. So that's the only time I really do phone calls, is through that beginning part. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Dana, do you have either a bullet point outline or a checklist that you use for these 4 calls?
Yeah, so that's in the Evernote that I will post. I'll post in the executive director page. It's an Evernote, and it's organized by call. So it's like call 1, here's the script, here's the email, I made a video, here's a sample video of how the call goes, and then call number 2. Here's the script, here's the email, here's the sample call. So I have that kind of all outlined. I'll share that.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. You know, one of the questions, another question that I have is, you know, so many individuals are working full-time, part-time jobs that we're bringing on as well. And I know, Kristin, this is your full-time opportunity and career. So I'm just kind of curious, as you progress with your career at Camperchuck, which was, I mean, so fast and so exciting, just curious as to what your week looks like from just how many hours you feel that you spend both from doing virtual shows and working with your team members. Would you be willing to share that?
Yeah. So my husband's always like, you gotta track your hours. Like, you probably think you're only putting in 10 hours and it's more than that. So I actually started tracking my hours. And I found that it's somewhere between like 28 to 30 hours a week. And it might be a little bit more than that, like as we're going for like big promotions, like going for senior exec, like it's probably more. But what I started doing, because this is so important for all of us, is I started time blocking, and I said, these are my business hours, and I'm not scheduling calls outside of my business hours. But I make sure I have some business hours in the evening as well. And they are focused hours, like Judy just said, because I started time blocking. If you guys don't do this, it has helped me so much. But like I just have this scheduled printout thing, and then it has like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. It has the day, the hours in the day in half-hour increments, and then like I highlighted my business hours. And so I'm like, okay, so if I have a business hour, okay, I'm gonna check my parties, I'm gonna follow up with my host. I'm only going to look at my email at 10 o'clock. I'm only going to look at my Instagram and post to my blog at 11. I'm going to go to the post office at 11:30. Like, it's mapped out, like, in lots of detail. And I used to think this was way too detailed, but I stay on track and I stay focused. And if I just check my parties in one time block, then I'm not trying to check them different times and then I'm being inefficient because I'm switching from activity to activity. So if you're more efficient, if you condense it into a set time, and Facebook message is like the worst time sucker ever. You work on a project and then you get these messages and then you stop the project and you you respond back, and that is the worst thing you can do. Like, turn all your message notifications off, and I have a time slot in my day where I'm responding to messages. So it's like, okay, I'm getting messages, but I'm checking my parties right now. So I'm on tunnel vision. I'm working on my parties. I'm checking them. I will respond to messages when it comes up on my to-do list or at 11 o'clock or whatever time that is. And this is good to show your directors that you're not going to respond to them right away. Your team, you're not going to respond to them right away because you respect your time and you respect your schedule, and they do. And so I think that's really important for us to be that way. I hope that helps answer your question. I don't know if it did.
Very, very much. I think it's just very helpful for everybody to have kind of a sense, because I think individuals that I have bumped into that, ask me questions about how much time to spend on the business, especially people who are very successful. I remember having a conversation one time with Stacy Yetzel, because Stacy's name came up a lot. It's like, oh my gosh, she must be working 80 hours a week, 70 hours a week. And I thought, no, I don't think she is. She has 5 children. And I know she loves them, and she has a lovely husband, Adam, that she likes to spend time with. And so when I spoke to Stacy, as I asked you now, Kristin, that same question, what I got was a very reasonable answer, and that is because you too are very much, in fact, I thought of Stacy when you were talking, because I remember Stacy talking about how she manages her time very, very strictly, because she wants to spend time with her kids and Adam, and that you're very, very focused. Because I think what happens a lot with directors, unfortunately, is you can get sucked into all those time sucks of Facebook, Messenger, all Instagram, whatever it is. You just get sucked into it, and then by the end of the day, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I worked so many hours and I didn't get anything out of it. Well, they were non-income producing. So incredibly, incredibly helpful.
Hey everybody.
Yeah.
The other thing that jumped into my mind when I was listening is, for those of us who've been in the business a lot longer and grew up with different technology, this is going to sound really weird, but we were just talking. I remember, like, when I was so thrilled when I could use voicemail to manage my calls. So I didn't have to pick up the phone every time it rang. Same analogy, that I don't have to respond to every notification that's there. The technology is going to change, but the technique for owning your own time, it's just such a great reminder for all of us. Thank you.
And to train, those people in your team. So, and to train ourselves, because, sometimes the first thing I'll do in the morning is I'll turn on my laptop here at the office, and I get sucked into email. All of a sudden it's 2 hours later, and I'm thinking, what have I really done for the business? And so you can get sucked. And Claudia made a comment, sucked into the vortex, social media vortex. And that can be both social media and email. And then at the end of the day, you feel like, what have I really contributed? So I think important for all of us as leaders of the business. So
and Marie, we could talk about this for a long time, but Marie was like, oh, it feels like it goes all day sometimes. It's like, I don't look at my notifications. I never check my parties based off notifications. It's like the worst way to check parties. Instead, I have it on my schedule to set time. I go into my parties and I look at everything that's happened in the party, as opposed to checking my notifications all throughout the day. Then you feel like you're super scattered and you never get anything done. It's like, nope, this is my set time. I go party by party, and I don't look at notifications. So there's lots of ways that you can become more efficient at it, but it's just knowing what those are and then teaching those to your team. So, yeah. Anyways.
I think it's more than that also for Kristin and other successful leaders. The time that she puts in is not only focused time, it's focused on where she's going to get the results she wants. She's not spreading herself everywhere, trying to be all things to all people, where instead she knows she has the systems in place to support the group as a whole, and she's putting her time outside of the shows into the consultants on her team, who have the same goals that she has. She's not only focused time, but focused energy during that time.
Yeah.
In Kristin, the sheet that you showed looks kind of I'm assuming you just put that together and every day of the week, and then kind of the time on the left side in 30-minute increments. Is that what you did?
Yeah,
Your
you
schedule?
I just made it in Excel, but you can like Google like time blocking printable, and you can get these cute printables. They're really cute. You can put them in binders, do all these different things. But I just made a really simple one. But it's out. It's out there. It's like a time blocking system. Like people train and teach on how to do it to become more efficient with your time. But yeah, I just put it into Excel. And I'll be sharing more at Executive SEM. Like a lot of some of the stuff, not all of it, but some little bits and pieces are going to be there as well, and you'll have like images on the PowerPoint that you can see that talk about that. And one thing I have to plug, I've been getting so many messages from people about how to do things and how to do this. I feel like there's a huge need, and so I started video podcasts on YouTube. So if you want to subscribe to my channel on YouTube, I'm going to be going every week and just covering a topic. You can share it with your teams. Like this last one was about virtual parties, how to have an awesome virtual party. I feel like there's a need out there, and so feel free to plug into that and share it with your teams because it's really good information that I think people need. So
Really nice. One last question, and then we'll end this. But Marie stated, are new consultants absorbed into your team page, or do you do a separate new consultant group?
they're absorbed into my team page. So I have an org page for my entire organization, and then I have a personal team page for just my personal team so that they can get incentives, the special incentives I offer my personal team. So they get added to both, but not a new consultant group. I don't have a separate one for that.
Awesome. Well, Kristin, as I type in to the chat, just what an inspiration you are. I mean, just so inspiring, so confident, so strong in this particular lane. And I can't tell you how much I have appreciated you taking the time. And I think everybody on this call, and I know people, when I send out the recording, are going to be like, wahoo! So thank you so very much. We totally have a better perspective of why you are so incredibly successful. And we're all going to be cheering you on every step of the way as you go to senior executive director. So thanks everybody for joining. Have a great day.